All right, g'day, novocastrians. Welcome back to the Jetstream, and another special guest. We're trying to get as much off-season content up for Jets fans as we can, and we're very privileged and pleased to be joined by Fox Sports commentator, or Fox Sports, Paramount Plus, and Bar TV, and he's been all over the show. But he's a novocastrian and a Jets fan, so big welcome to the Jetstream to Ben Homer, mate. Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Grant. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, you're a fellow novocaster and you've evolved in commentary since 2015. What made you decide to get into that side of things rather than playing sport? Because that's usually what people get involved in. Commentary and sports journalism's not really the career that a lot of people choose to get into straight away.
Yeah, well, I think it was just playing a lot of sport when I was a kid, and I've loved. And honestly, I do a lot of sport now, so I love the balance of both, and obviously not good enough to compete at the elite level, but
same.
but try to push myself as much as I possibly can, and I think that the reason why I went down the sports path is probably because I just have that that sports nerd brain that I just love. I just connect best with, the storylines that sport throws up. I reckon. I think that's probably the way. Honestly, there's so many things. I'm just a naturally curious person, so I feel like there's a lot of sort of jobs that would have interested me, but the one that I thought was going to be one that I really thought this is going to not feel like a job for me was sort of going down the path of sort of sport and commentary specifically.
Yeah.
I know that you can present or you can be a newspaper journalist, but sort of being a journo as a newspaper journo or a radio journo, that kind of thing, that was sort of something that in sort of my field, you've probably got to start with, which is where I started there at the ABC. But the thing that I always wanted to do was commentate sport. I sort of never lost sight of that because I feel like I just love being able to tell stories, of players' backgrounds and weave that into the broadcast as well as telling the story of the game. And that's sort of the thing that really appealed to me.
Are you still diversified with what you're commentating on, or are you mainly concentrating on football? Because I know I read with interest I think you did an article a good couple of years ago now from Soccer Scene where you mentioned there was, netball and tennis and a bunch of other things. But do you regard yourself as mainly football, or do you like to basically commentate on anything?
Well, at the moment, I'm sort of working across football and rugby league. I did a bit of netball this season, but the netball broadcast deals up with Fox now because that was obviously with Fox Sports, and it's going to Channel 9, and I probably envisage that they'll probably use their own callers for that. So I probably would think moving forward will probably be more sort of football and rugby league, which I don't mind. Like, I have done the Aussie Open in the past, and I've done netball, and I've done cricket, which has been great. But it is tough. The hardest thing is just trying to be able to keep yourself up to date with as many sports as possible. With the cricket, honestly, was, in terms of calling cricket, not sort of specifically talking about calling cricket being really hard, but it's the research for T20. Like, I was doing a lot of Women's Big Bash, and the amount of T20 comps around the world, matches you've got to keep track of, like it is really can blow your brain. Netball wasn't too bad because you've got internationals and you've got the Super Netball, and when you think about it, so in the Suncorp Super Netball, you've got 8 teams, you've got 10 players. They brought in an 11th player, so let's say you've got 88 players to remember. That's basically like 2 A-League clubs in a whole competition. So the netball was great from that end because you really could delve in. But as I said, like, the hardest thing about doing multiple sports is just being able to keep your brain across it all. So over the last few years, I've been getting a fair bit more sort of A-League work and rugby league work, which has almost sort of allowed me just to focus on those two. And then I'm also doing a bit of teaching as well, sort of doing my primary teaching degree, bit of commentary at some of our local schools with their athletics and swimming carnivals, which
Yep.
honestly, that's so much fun as well. I've loved doing that. So just being
Nice.
able to do a whole bunch of different things really is great. I love it because it's nice and flexible, and then it allows me to sort of enjoy my life, get away when I can, keep
Yep.
sort of challenging myself with my rowing that I do a lot. So yeah, it's just trying to get that balance right. That's what I'm always looking to do.
So are you working on a contractor basis? Like, or do you work directly for the broadcasters? How does it work? It's like, obviously, if you're are you locked into an agreement with 10 slash Paramount,
No, so
excluding
there's no
broadcasters, or
yeah,
you
there's
work
no
for
sort
anyone?
of yeah, no, there's no sort of contract as such that says you will do this amount of games or you will exclusively work for us. It's just a freelancer. I'm on their books and I just get paid when I work, and that's the same with Channel 10 and Fox. Not the
Yep.
same for everyone. Like obviously there's guys and girls that are on contracts, but
Yep.
for
Yep.
me, being a freelancer, it works well. Not that I've been asked about, to go on contract, but as a freelancer, I don't mind that ability because it allows me to sort of work across and be able to sort of keep my skills up across multiple areas.
Do you get how much in advance do you know whether you're working in the booth or whether you're going to be sidelined? Do they tell you, give you a bit of warning? So obviously your research is going to be coloured by what your job's going to be on that specific game. So how much notice and how much prep work do you have to do?
Notice wise, it's been great. Honestly, he's probably got the hardest job, our roster manager at Channel 10. Like trying to manage I don't know how he does it. It must make his brain explode with like availabilities and everything.
Yeah.
But usually he tries to get it out sort of at least 4 or 5 months in advance. So yeah, that is very, very helpful. Sometimes you won't know even a month advance with other sports. Like it can be very, very challenging. But no, they do a great job with the A League trying to get the roster out early, so you know what's happening.
Yeah, nice. Well, do you have I mean, from a commentary, from your job perspective side of things, what's your favourite, or what's most? It depends what you rank as highly. Like, is it something that's exciting, or is it something that's got pace? What's your favourite sport to actually commentate on?
Or yeah, so this is what I always say to that, Grant, is it doesn't matter what sport it is. If you've got a massive crowd and a great atmosphere, that's the distinction for me,
Yeah,
right? Like if you've got a great crowd and a really meaningful game that's high stakes, they're the games that you want to call. It doesn't matter what it is, right? So
yeah,
you're looking at it, if you're calling a game where there's no crowd and there's just no atmosphere, then it makes it really, really difficult. So that's the thing, that's the great thing about the A League, obviously, because I've been doing it for a period of time. Therefore, you have the ability, because you've been doing it for a period of time, that you're probably going to be doing more meaningful matches. Whereas when you're just starting on a competition, you're
yeah,
obviously probably not going to be doing those matches. That's why, like this year, being able to do that semi-final, um, the Jet Sydney game, that was amazing.
yeah,
That's probably the highlight of my commentary career to this
yeah.
point, because of the stakes, the meaning of the match, and the fact that my employers at Paramount and 10 gave me that opportunity to, they trusted me to call that game, which was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you class yourself as a Jet supporter? And when did you have you been? Have you been? So obviously you're a football fan, but do you regard yourself as a rusted on Jet supporter?
Yes, I would say in the past, I'd say yeah, like you know, a Jets supporter, but and I follow the club, being in Newcastle. What I would say is when I'm calling the games, you
Yeah,
take that kind of angle out of it, and that's the thing. I think it's hard for people to sort of get their head around. I think when you're a supporter, you're either a supporter or you're not. Well, that's wrong. If I'm sitting there watching a match at home, and the Jets are playing against whoever, do I want the Jets to win? Of course I want the Jets to win.
Yeah.
When I'm commentating a game, you take that hat off and you just call the game for what it is. And at the end of the game, if the Jets have won, you say, oh, well, that's good. And if they haven't, well, that's that. I actually prefer. That's why that Jets Sydney game, I was enjoying commentating, because if I hadn't have been commentating, I felt like it would have been a very challenging experience, because you're going through the highs and lows of a fan. Whereas when you're calling the game, you're just going through that. You're in work mode and you're calling the game for the moments. Not to say that, like, in that situation, being a Jets home game, like, it's hard not to get caught up in the home team doing well. That's the thing. Like, that's what we always, most commentators and most people around the A-League, we talk about it, all of us talent talk about it pretty regularly, is that the A-League would be much better off if more home teams won. Like, if you look at the record for home teams, it's challenging. Well, we saw that in the finals, right? It was great that Auckland won the grand final at home, but what about the week before? Adelaide got dudded at home.
Yeah.
The Jets I'm not saying they got dudded. They got dumped out at home. The Jets, same thing. Yeah. And the atmosphere there at the end of the game is just, you're just like, and same thing, like, Auckland scored those 3 goals. Robbie's calling the game, and, you know, yes, of course, you know, you can't do anything about it, but it's so much more fun as a commentator when you are getting, you know, the home team doing well, because the atmosphere is so much better.
Well, you've pretty much answered the question I had later on, which was about the semi-final experience for you as a fan and then as a commentator, how you're able to separate that. Or can you be both at the same time, or do you really? Because I mean, it's interesting, because some iconic moments are when people are there commentating as a fan. Like, everyone remembers Fozzie's reaction to the Uruguay playoff at home in Sydney in 2005, purely because of the joy that he was expressing after that. And you had Simon Hill as the counterpoint to that, sort of being, you know, the steady voice, whereas, you know, Foz is going mental in the commentary box as the goals go, as the we're saving penalties and putting penalties away. So it's an interesting balance.
It is, and I'd say the main difference there, though, is obviously that was for an Australian, or like, it's sort of like when Bash, I'm pretty sure David Bash is doing the Socceroos games at the World Cup. So when Bash calls these matches, not sure who his co-caller will be, that will be from an Australian lens as such. Like, the world feed is obviously going to be unbiased, but that's sort of that Australian perspective. Whereas with the A-League, we are unbiased. We are making sure that we're telling both sides of the story. There's no sort of angle as such. It's not like when it's like the Olympic coverage, when, you know, we're commentating an Australian event. Yes, you're trying to be as even as you can, but also, you know, that the broadcaster is broadcasting to Australia. Your commentary is only going to Australia, so you're going to really try and focus more and you know, ham it up a bit more for the Aussie than you would ordinarily if you were commentating on a world feed.
So obviously we had the news come through just after the grand final that Paramount 10's extended the agreement for another 3 years. So obviously I think it's come a long way since they took over the broadcasting. How have you found it as somebody who worked for Fox Sports, and I think you still do some work for Fox Sports, to the Paramount side of things? How do you compare the two experiences from the commentary booth side of things?
Oh, it's very much the same. Like, when you think about it, all the broadcast equipment, all of that comes from similar providers. So I enjoy both. I know there were some challenges at the start and challenges with the production partner, Global Advance, who started, but that sort of all shifted, and they've ironed out any of those challenges of the early days. I honestly thought it was fantastic this year that the setup with the double headers on Saturday worked really well with the panel. I was super proud of what we delivered this year, and and I think it's only going to get better the next 3 years. And what's exciting as well is the EPL rights are up, the Premier League, the Champions League rights are up, and I'm excited to see what happens there, because you can see from the outside looking in that Stan have cut back their coverage of the Champions League. That's obvious, because obviously Adam and Bozza and Fozzie were doing those shows, basically pre and post match analysis, and that's been scaled back. So you hazard a guess and you wonder, are they keen on retaining the rights to the Champions League, etc., Premier League, etc.? And is there the opportunity for 10 Paramount to bring that back under the one roof as it was under at Fox?
Yeah,
obviously we'll wait and see. But I think it's great that obviously the Socceroos, Matilda's rights, A-League rights are all in the one place. It'd be great to have it all in the one place as it was, but we'll wait and see how that plays out. That'll be one to watch over the coming years.
So taking a step back from global, international and national broadcasting, you got your start, or you cut your teeth at Bar TV, working on the local comps, and also talking about obviously your NPL show that you were doing with CT, back then. So how integral was Bar TV in showing you the ropes, and just to also say to you and to pass on again our thoughts and sympathies with you and CT's friends and family about the recent loss. But what was his effect on you and your growth as a commentator, and his impact in Newcastle football in general?
Yeah, well, first thing is the experience at Bar TV was amazing. Like to be able to get that opportunity to start calling on a live stream, and you get that. Of course, the NPL is a great comp, but you're not going to have as many eyeballs as you would on TV with the A-League. You get the chance to make mistakes, and I think back to the early days when I was doing that, and I just think, oh my God, it wasn't it wasn't great. But
that was all the way back in 2015, wasn't it? That was
2015. Yeah, the first game I did was Lambton Jaffers and the Jets U. And I think it was 3-2. I reckon the Jaffers probably won. So Clayton Zane was coaching the Jets.
Nice.
Dave Tancheski was coaching Jaffers, I reckon. Yeah, honestly, might have been Ginno actually. Pete McGuinness might have been the Jets. But yeah, it was it was amazing. And CT, that first season, he started coaching. He was actually coaching Maitland because they'd just been promoted to the NPL that season. And he was really busy with work, and they wanted him to do that season back in the top flight, and he said, yeah, I can do it. But then after about 3 matches, he was just too busy, so he had to step back. And my brother went to school with his daughter, so I sort of met him just by chance at a local game, because my brother's friends were playing each other. They played for different teams.
Yep.
I think a group of them played for New Lambton, another group at Guitarra South, and they played each other. And I don't know how it happened, but I got introduced to CT, and they were saying, yeah, CT coach Maitland, and I got talking to him. I basically asked him, can you commentate the NPL? Like, you would be amazing. I just think coaches give you such a level of understanding in commentary. Players can give you that, definitely, but coaches, I just think sometimes they're just so undervalued in there, probably because they're coaching usually, so they don't come into commentary. But some of the best experts are coaches, and CT at first was a bit like, I'm not sure, but then sort of at the end of that season, he messaged me. It was probably a week after that conversation, and said, "No, I'm keen. I want to do it. It was really, you're really passionate and excited, and I want to sort of help you out and help you on this journey." So then from there, he was basically commentating, and I think the one thing that because there's so many things I could say about CT, but the one thing that I loved the most about him was there's people who will block your path, and there's people that will not open the door to help you out. He does not do that at all. He was one of the most open guys I've ever come across. He literally said, "I will take you in and introduce you to the coaches and take you down." And for me, that's very uncomfortable because I'm probably more of an introvert at heart. So that's sort of an uncomfortable thing for me to sort of go and see all these people. But the way that he just brought me into the football community as someone who was an outsider, because I wasn't in that environment. So for him to be able to do that for me was the most amazing thing. And him and Damien Smith both, they're like, and I was by no way a football aficionado at that point as well. And the amount of time they gave me I literally would just ask them questions, so many questions about this and that and formations and why are you doing this, why are you doing that? And I just soaked it up over about 6 or 7 years. It was, honestly, it was probably one of the privileges, the biggest privileges of my life to work with those guys. And one of the things that I remember we did Hamilton Olympic or Newcastle Olympic and Broadmeadow Magic. They played a 2-legged final series. Would have been about 2017, maybe 2018. And it was at Darling Street, and the atmosphere in there was absolutely insane. It was amazing. Olympics sort of were down 2-1, I think, after the first leg. They equalised, so it was 2-2. It was all happening. Then Magic sort of snatched it with a couple of late goals, and it was just going off. And I sort of said to myself, do not let this moment pass you by in sort of that journey of wanting to sort of call the A-League. Make sure you enjoy this, because if you don't, you're going to be missing out on so much. And that was the attitude I took to the NPL over all the years I did it. And I just think that was so helpful for me, because I didn't sort of devalue it. I just went, this is a great competition. This is every time I get to go out and practice my commentary, practice my skills. And if I do this week in, week out, then I'll give myself the skill set to be able to call if the opportunity on the A-League comes or further. So, to be honest, they were just absolutely incredible. And I didn't have that. Like I called other sports of RTV, rugby league. I didn't have anyone else like that. I couldn't be more thankful for CT, and I'm absolutely devastated for his family especially. But just the hardest thing is there's just times where I would call him, because I'd often call him just to get advice on all kinds of things, and not being able to call him is probably the most difficult thing. That's the bit that really hits me. I'm like, he's just not there, and that's really hard.
Right. Well, I know we're got you for a limited amount of time, so just a couple of questions to finish off. Obviously, you've had a close view of the evolution of the team this season. What do you think was behind, or from the commentary side of things, looking at the bird's eye view, what was your assessment of the big turnaround between of results? Like, obviously, we had the 10-game run. It looked a little bit inconsistent in the first sort of third of the season, but the 5-4 result against MacArthur on Boxing Day was sort of probably an end point for that. It was success after that. What do you see? What did you see as the big turnaround behind that, or the factors behind the turnaround?
Yeah, I think a few things. I think like the Australia Cup result was awesome, but I think at that point they probably hadn't. And this probably shows you the quality of how well they did in the Australia Cup, is that they hadn't probably realised their best starting 11. And then through the start of the A-League, like the Mariners game, they were unlucky in that one. Then they thumped Victory, and you thought, all right, here we go. But then they had those results, Sydney, Brisbane, where things you're going, okay, so just not quite. It just wasn't quite coming together.
Yep.
But then once, Shush, now we know, it was integral to the leadership role over the season and a bit. I'm trying to think. Yeah, broad. I think he was there for a season and a bit. So really, really integral there at the back. He was sort of moved on because just his style probably didn't suit the way that Milligan wanted to play, with a bit more speed there at the back. And then obviously Natta came in, Max Cooper. And I just think that shift where Burgess, of course, moved into the sixth role as the holder.
That was a big call, moving Maxi Burgess into a position he'd never played before, when he was usually a 10.
Yes, yeah, and just the speed, the dynamism he gave the team out of that area was just massive, wasn't it? So I think that was probably the point. And then obviously Eli was coming back in. I know Eli, he did start the season, but he had niggles in the off season. Clayton Taylor was coming off groin surgery,
and wanted to leave.
Yeah, and wanted to leave. According to the reports, well, he went in, and I think Macca said that in commentary one of the matches. Yeah, it was going to be heading out. So once those sort of once Millsy found that formula, I think that was the moment. And then sort of at the back end of the season, I know that people were saying, "Oh, the wheels fallen off, oh this or that." I just thought that it was a few things. You look at the teams they beat in that run, where they were winning 4-1. I think it was like Perth, who were poor, Brisbane, not great at that point in time, Wellington, right? So great performances, but they're playing teams who were leaking a lot of goals at that point, and confidence was down. And then all of a sudden they ran into teams that were a bit more wily, like, a MacArthur or, Melbourne Victory at the back end of the season had a draw there. That played the likes of Auckland. So I just think they played against smarter teams who weren't going just to, roll over. They were going to absolutely go for it. And I just think they got a great, they got great tests of the way that they were playing. And this was the same thing with Ernie back in 2018. He was always saying that it was hard at the back end of that season. They struggled, and also the next season. When teams work you out and they want to try and stymie the way that you're playing, that's when things get quite challenging. And to be honest, I thought they found solutions pretty well. I know that first leg against Sydney, like they said, probably wasn't our best performance, but second leg against Sydney, you think about the chances. Yeah. And it's, on another night, maybe you go through and you win that game, but that's just the way things go. And, we'll never forget the Eli Adams moment. Like, no. What a goal in that moment. That you can never take that away from someone, that they produced that in the most pressurized environment where you needed a goal. Like that can never be taken away from him.
Yeah, and the atmosphere I was listening. I couldn't get to the game, unfortunately. I was working at a mine site on that night. I was listening to VAR TV commentary in a grader in the rain at a mine site, and I could tell the atmosphere when that goal went in. It was just insane, and that was over 10 speakers and a heavy vehicle piece of heavy machinery. So, mate, I know we've got limited time, so one more question. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of players are departing. There's a lot of turnover. We've seen this happen time and time again. The Jets get a little bit of success, look like they're on an upswing, and then the next season goes downhill. It seems to be a little bit different this time around. How confident are you in the new ownership and in Millsy with the job he's done, that this is going to be an even bigger test of his coaching credentials this off season, to be able to? I don't think anybody's expecting him to back up the trophy haul, but just to recover from the loss of players and to be able to keep us on a steady improvement and be in the conversation, which I think is what most Jet supporters would like. We want to be proud of our team. Our team looks like they're hard to play against. They play an exciting brand of football, and we're in the conversation for finals and trophies.
Yeah, I think that I'll look at the teams like after the Jets have had a really successful period or season, think about 2008-9, the struggles after that grand final, like
Yeah.
Durante gone, huge hole, Mushalik, Bridge, key players across the spine of the team, and the struggles the next year. So there's an example of one way where you do lose the heart. Then in 2018, probably didn't lose too many players. Naboot was obviously a big loss at the back end of that previous year, but you wonder, and I've obviously I'm writing a book on the Jets history, which I'm about to finish, but spoken to a number of players about that night, and there is a question mark over, did we handle that as well as we could of the next season? Was there still a little bit of heartbreak from the way it played out with the VAR and whatnot?
Yeah.
So that I think contributed as well, the fact that the way that they lost the grand final. Whereas I just feel like, yes, they've lost some key players, your Clayton Taylors, your Lockie Rose, etc., etc. But I do think that key players in the spine are still there. Max Burgess is still there. Max Cooper played a big part this season, so he could slot back into that back line. Up top, yep, I know Rose has gone, Gibson's gone, but Virgos has been signed. There's some experience there. Eli Adams is still there. I don't know whether, I've been told that if an offer comes in for him, they probably can't refuse it. But I do reckon there's a good spine there. And from what I'm hearing in terms of players that are going to be signed as well, that's exciting. Like Burton Cello's another player. I think he's going to go to another level this coming season after the disappointment of that would have been heartbreaking. I know how hard he took it, absolutely in tears on the field. And I just think he's a player that is going to have the bit between the teeth. And, he's going to be awesome for the Jets going forward. So I think as well, yes, after those two seasons, Van Egmond was there and Merrick and Ernie was there after that. But I think that the fact that, what we've seen from Millsy this season, the players all really bought in. I just reckon that there's positive signs there moving forward. But as we know, with the Jets, after a successful period / season, doesn't usually pan out well. So if it doesn't, then I'm sure there'll be a lot of fans going, well, that's typical Jets. But you know what? Milligan is he knows what's happened in the past. He was part of that season back in 08-09. He wants to prove the doubters wrong. He will want to prove history wrong, and that is one thing that we know how determined he is. So that's why I would say I think the Jets will be all right next season, because I just know how, I know from hearing what he sort of said to the players post-match after that match against Sydney. Yeah, he's fired up and ready to go.
Mate, we could probably talk for another hour, but I know you've got stuff to do, so I'll thank you for your time, mate. Really appreciate it, and fingers crossed we'll be able to get you back on again soon. So, mate, really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Grant. Thanks for having me on.